Area early this morning, and this is what it brought: hail and rain. We've got the pictures to prove it thanks to KSAT viewers. They shared photos as well as video capturing bolts of lightning. And while those storms have gone, there's more chances for rain and even snowflakes. Mia Montgomery has tracking it all this noon.
And strong winds have also been a concern, and not just for residents, but fire crews as well. Why that wind made fighting flames at 2 fire scenes more difficult this morning.
And today's rain created a dangerous situation for one man. His efforts to stay dry and warm led to a full-blown rescue situation. How fire crews set up a system to help get him to safety.
Live from KSAT12, the news at noon starts right now.
If you didn't hear the weather change overnight, you're definitely feeling it this noon. It is chilly outside, and those lower temperatures will hang around a few days.
And that's not the only thing we're keeping an eye on in the forecast. Let's go over to meteorologist Mia Montgomery with the details.
Yep, today has definitely been a day to keep the jacket handy. Much colder temperatures have moved into south central Texas behind that front that moved in very early this morning. Some of us likely woke up through the overnight thanks to some of the noisy storms that front brought with us. We did have some lingering showers, especially across our eastern counties earlier this morning. As of right now, most of us are dry, maybe just a few sprinkles there in southern Medina County, and then stretching over to portions of Dimmitt County there to the northeast of Carrizo Springs. But let's talk temperatures, because yes, much different right now compared to where we were this time yesterday. Thermometers reading about 15 to 20 degrees colder than where we were 24 hours ago. 50 degrees right now over at SA International, 47 though in Bulverde, some 40s in Converse, Helotes, 47 in Comfort, and 45 is the lunchtime temperature over in Bandera this hour. Now, just how high those temperatures are able to climb this afternoon, that might be dependent on if some of the cloud cover that we've got in place right now can maybe break up just a little bit. As of right now, mid to maybe even a few upper 50s certainly possible. Also, the winds that we found this morning, while it is still going to be breezy out there this afternoon, not quite as windy as what we've seen throughout the first half of the day. As we head into the weekend, yes, you're going to want to keep the jacket handy, but you're also going to want to keep the umbrella handy, because we do have some additional chances for some rain pretty much each day, but especially overnight tonight and throughout the first half of the day tomorrow. It is possible that we find a few snowflakes try to mix in with some of that cold rain, especially across portions of the hill country, maybe as far south as northern Bexar County. Now, no travel issues right now currently anticipated, but it is something we will be watching. We'll get you all those details and time it out coming up here in just a few minutes.
And some nasty weather hit other parts of the country, including North Texas. Some communities were hit with golf ball size hail. ABC's Ginger Z has a look at the damage that severe weather left behind.
Tornado sirens blaring across Fort Worth, Texas. The wall of a car dealership in Irving crumbling in the storm.
I looked up and you could see it was coming from this way, and then this one was coming this way. It just like quadrupled in intensity with the storm.
The slew of warned storms crossing major interstates right in the heart of the evening commute, pelting them with huge hail, some as big as baseballs. The wind flipping this truck. Thankfully, the 2 people inside were okay. As the storm raked the cities, power flashes illuminating the sky. And on the northern side of all this, in central Minnesota, heavy wet snow became a travel nightmare. Plows working, yet multiple drivers still spinning out, the median littered with cars, this tractor trailer jackknifing.
Incredible images, and that was ABC's Ginger Z reporting.
New at noon, the high winds not making it easy on fire crews. Several fires broke out this morning around the city, and the windy conditions had crews worried flames would spread. One of those fires sparked on the south side on Pleasanton Bluff near Loop 410. Firefighters say that a neighbor called for help when they noticed flames shooting out of a 2-story home. No one was there at the time, so there were no injuries. However, the flames did destroy the roof's home, so fire crews say it is a total loss. Arson investigators still looking into the cause of that fire as well.
A woman is dead after a house fire on the city's west side. It started just after 4 this morning at a home on Monterey Street. That's north of Cesar Chavez. We're told that despite high winds, they were able to put out the flames. Fire crews say they pulled the woman out from a bedroom of the home. They were seen doing CPR and taking her to an ambulance, but we are told she later died. Right now, it's unclear what sparked the flames.
Ropes and rescuers, some of the first sights a local man saw this morning, and they were welcome sights, part of the plan to pull him up after he fell into a manhole just northwest of downtown. It happened near I-10 and Colorado Street, and as Katrina Weber shows us, he left with a leg injury and a story to tell.
Slow and steady is how things must go for these San Antonio firefighters, with a man's safety hanging in the balance. Friends of his called 911 before 6 this morning after he took a tumble into this manhole near I-10 in Colorado.
First units got on scene and determined he was between 15 and 20 feet straight down.
Rescue crews got to work from above, shutting down traffic on the highway to set up their rig. With a ladder and ropes, they set up a system to help him.
To send the rescuers down and to get the patient out of the hole. That was going to be the fastest, most efficient way to get him out.
They believe he went in, hoping to reach a spot where homeless people often camp out. Firefighters say overnight rainwater flooded out the usual entry point. Firefighters say it looks like that man was trying to climb down in this manhole to get to a place where he could be warm and dry, but they believe that's when he slipped and fell. After a lot of effort, though, they saw success. Rescuers carefully pulled him from the hole and placed him on a stretcher. He was visibly uncomfortable, suffering from what firefighters say was a leg injury.
It's variable. It's not something we do on a daily basis, but it's something our technical rescue team trains for very often. That
training appeared to pay off. The man was taken to a hospital, but is expected to be okay. Katrina Weber, KSAT12 News.
San Antonio police say a man was stabbed and robbed on the city's west side overnight. It happened around 11 last night on Ruiz and North Sabinas. Officers say the victim was a man in his 30s. They say he was stabbed in the arm and then they took the victim's bike and rode away. The victim was taken to the hospital. So far, police have not said if the suspect was arrested.
A suspect involved in a deadly shooting on San Antonio's northeast side last week is now in police custody. According to a police affidavit, 30-year-old Dominique Kroom is now charged with murder. Police say they responded to a shooting call just after 8 o'clock last Thursday at Gibbs Sprawl Road and Castle Cross Drive near Ritterman Road. According to the police report, 37-year-old Robert Diaz was found unresponsive in his vehicle with multiple gunshot wounds. He was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. An investigation revealed that Diaz was working as an Uber driver when he was shot and was taking Kroon to another location. The report says people in the area heard several gunshots and then saw a person running away from the victim's vehicle. After interviewing witnesses and reviewing video evidence, officers were able to find and arrest Kroon.
New video shows people in absolute shock at the San Antonio Zoo moments after a tree broke and fell onto guests. At least 7 people were hurt, including a child who was in serious condition at last check. Here's what one witness said about the scary moment that unfolded amid spring break crowds.
One lady that I was helping with others was screaming, "My baby."
An arborist told KSAT that based on the size of the tree, the branch could weigh between 1,500 and 2,000 pounds. Meanwhile, the zoo's president and CEO says staff are working to investigate what caused the tree to break.
Still coming up this half hour, Dak Prescott gets emotional about losing one of his friends and teammates. We'll have that for you in sports.
Girls from across the city are coming together in the name of empowerment. How a 2-day event aims to provide girls with tools they can use to succeed in life. The International Criminal Court has issued a warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin's arrest. The organization says it stems from war crimes in Ukraine.
A Kremlin spokesman says that Russia does not recognize the International Criminal Court and considers its decisions legally void.
And now turning to the latest on that U.S. drone earlier this week down over the Black Sea. Russia's defense minister has awarded medals to the Russian pilots, praising them for intercepting the aircraft over a restricted flight zone.
Meanwhile, as ABC's Justin Finch tells us, the Pentagon insists that drone was in unrestricted airspace, calling the interception reckless.
Conflicting accounts from Washington and Moscow about the downing of this U.S. drone.
What we do know, and what is clearly evident, is that this was intentional harassment
The Pentagon releasing declassified video it says shows 2 Russian warplanes making 19 aggressive high-speed passes around this unmanned U.S. surveillance drone and dumping fuel onto it. One jet later seen spraying more fuel before the video breaks up. Once it returns, the drone's propeller is visibly damaged. Drone operators then guiding the aircraft down to the Black Sea, where U.S. defense officials believe Russian crews may have already picked up some parts of it. Defense officials saying sensitive intelligence has been wiped from the drone.
We have capabilities and means at our disposal to protect and safeguard information, of which we have taken.
The U.S. contending the drone was flying in unrestricted airspace, releasing a map that shows where the intercept first happened, where the collision occurred, and where the unmanned vehicle ended up in the water. Despite the video, Russia insists its pilots never came into contact with the drone, saying it went down after maneuvering sharply in Russian restricted airspace. Those Russian pilots now awarded medals for intercepting the drone. At the Kremlin, preparations underway to welcome China's President Xi for talks with President Putin. Russia views Xi's visit as a show of support for Vladimir Putin, but the Chinese say they just want to provide conditions for peace talks.
And the U.S. will be watching closely to see what develops from President Xi's visit and if there's any movement on Beijing delivering lethal aid to Russia, which officials say has not happened yet. Xi set to arrive in Russia on Monday. Justin Finch, ABC News, Washington.
Outside with Live Cam, not often you get to have a weather change and a wardrobe change all within just a few hours.
And we were just talking about that earlier this morning.
Yesterday, and you too, how we were just kind of going to need the whole wardrobe, right? Spring-like yesterday, and then winter-like conditions return today. Yeah, that is all thanks to that front that moved through overnight. Yay to the rain, though. Aquifer is up 0.7 of a foot. 634.3 is the reading this Friday. Oak is still high when we look at our pollen count. Molds have jumped up to the moderate category thanks to the overnight rain and storms. Hackberry, pine, and mulberry all low today. But yes, even more chances for rain will make for some damp spots into the upcoming weekend, and unseasonably cold temperatures stick with us as well. When can we expect a warm up? We'll have all those details coming up for you after the break.
A San Antonio event empowering girls and bringing together inspiring voices and workshops.
I spoke to participants at this year's Girls Empowerment Summit, and they share what issues and topics they care about.
They're just really excited to learn and engage and embrace everything that's coming their way, from the mentoring hour to learning about the professions that they can become.
Dozens of girls from across San Antonio attended the 4th annual Girls Empowerment Summit today at the Neighborhood Place, a community center on the west side. The 2-day event includes a panel discussion, conversation with mentors, and a space for girls to express themselves.
An issue that's really important to me is equal opportunities for girls, especially the ones that are at economic disadvantage.
What's important for me is to see girls succeed and not to lead out their emotions, but to know root causes of things so that they know how to effectively function in real life.
The event focuses on different topics, including positive body image, self-care, and social media awareness. Community members excited to be back in person after being virtual the last 2 years.
This is the first time that the girls get to be around one another and be with their mentors.
Mental health is always the biggest issue. So going from being in home, being in front of their computer, to actually being able to engage and connect with girls that they wouldn't otherwise be able to connect with, this is going to make all the difference in their confidence and their self-esteem.
Tiffany Huertas, KSAT12 News.
Now, tomorrow the summit continues. They are partnering with the San Antonio Fire Department and providing girls with the opportunity to participate in Camp Hero Like Her, which educates and inspires girls to consider a career in firefighting.
That event starts at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Fire Academy located at 300 South Callahan Road. They'll need a little jacket tomorrow morning because they're going to be outside working on that stuff. So
yeah, that's going to be the two kind of biggest things to hold on to this weekend. The jacket, definitely going to want to layer up because those unseasonably cold conditions will continue, but also the umbrella, because after the rain and storms that we had move through overnight and very early this morning, we have some additional chances for some rain in the forecast, at least through about Monday of early next week. But yes, that does follow the big changes that we had move in here for this Friday. It was noisy out there overnight for a good portion of the area. Check out this photo that was sent in via KSAT Connect from a viewer out there in Canyon Lake. Non-stop lightning for over 10 minutes. Yeah, quite the light show with some of these storms, especially with some of the storms that were actually closer to the Austin area. Earlier in the evening, some folks out in Seguin also able to see some of that lightning that was a bit away. We also had some hail that was reported, a few severe thunderstorms closer to Carrizo Springs. And then in Cotulla, we don't like the severe weather aspect of it, but we will take the rainfall. For some of us, beneficial. SA International picking up over 0.3 of an inch of rain over at the airport, just over a quarter in Floresville, 0.18 over in Pleasanton and Atascosa County, over half of an inch in Seguin, and over 3/4 of an inch in Converse there on the east side of Bexar County. Now, we are pretty quiet out there in terms of the radar. We had a few sprinkles potentially out there in southern Medina County. Looks like that is fizzling out even more so this afternoon. I do think most of us will sit on the drier side. Notice the cloud cover is still with us for a good portion of the area. Temperatures for the most part looking to top off in the upper 50s, but maybe a few low 60s farther south, especially if some of that cloud cover breaks up just a little bit. And then after dinner time, let's say after about 6 to 7 p.m., we see another piece of energy move in from the west, and that looks to spark up some additional scattered rain later on tonight. This is your futurecast for about 9 p.m. tonight. That scattered rain continues as we head into the early morning hours of our Saturday. But then watch what else happens here on our futurecast, especially across portions of the hill country. And then again, maybe as far south as northwestern Bexar County. By sunrise tomorrow morning, it is possible that we may find a few snowflakes actually mix in with some of that cold liquid rain. Yes, it is possible to find a few snowflakes survive the journey here to the ground, even when actual surface temperatures are just above freezing. It all has to do with the vertical profile of temperatures here in our atmosphere. Now, no travel impacts are expected for those areas that maybe do find a few flakes mixing in, but throughout the first half of the day, really just by sunrise tomorrow morning, we may need to monitor for a light frosting across elevated surfaces, maybe some grassy surfaces in those areas. So we'll keep eyes on it, but whatever is left out there on the radar, especially by and just after lunchtime tomorrow, that will transition to all liquid rain into the afternoon. A few showers certainly possible, especially the farther west that you go, closer to the Rio Grande. Let's talk winds though as well, because yes, this morning it was very gusty out there. That front kicked up a very healthy north wind. Right now still is pretty breezy. We've seen some wind gusts upwards of about 25 miles per hour in spots. New Braunfels though still clocking in a wind gust of about 32 miles per hour here this noon hour. Into the afternoon, it still will be breezy out there, but winds are not going to be gusting as high as what we've seen throughout the first half of the day. What those winds were doing for us though, especially this morning, making it feel even colder than it actually was. We had wind chill values in the 30s in and around the San Antonio area earlier this morning. You can see that it is still chilly. 50 right now over at SA International, same up in New Braunfels. It's 54 in Pleasanton and 53 over in Hondo. And again, this afternoon, those temperatures will try and climb into the mid, maybe some upper 50s, depending on if any of that cloud cover can break up just a touch. And then if you are planning on heading out for any of those Friday evening plans, definitely take the jacket with you. It will be pretty chilly out there. there. And then later on tonight, if you are planning on being out and about, wouldn't hurt to have the umbrella there as well. Keep it handy this weekend. Chilly, upper 30s, low 40s, transitioning to the upper 40s, low 50s for afternoon highs. And then into next week, that's when we'll start to see that spring-like feel return, especially by Wednesday and Thursday, with highs climbing into the 70s, guys.
Thanks, Mia.
Hey, the Cowboys with a big split, and the Brahmas are back home, finally. Talk to them coming up. Dak Prescott getting a little emotional when he talked about his buddy Zeke Elliott. Elliott and Zach were both drafted by the Cowboys back in 2016. Zeke went in the first round, going 4th overall. Dak in the 4th round at 135. They have been 2 peas in a pod ever since, but that all changed when the Cowboys announced they released Elliott after 7 seasons and 2 rushing titles. He was pretty much a salary cap casualty, but Zeke's declining production didn't help much. Dak got a little choked up during a community event in Dallas when asked about the boys getting rid of Zeke.
Yeah, tough. Yeah, it really is. It's tough. A brother, playing the game with a brother, being able to start this NFL career and share so many memories and grow up as men with this organization. I really can't imagine taking the field without him. Something I don't know if it's completely hit me yet. Obviously, I've talked to him. I'm hurt. I'm sure he is, but it's more importantly for me just to be able to support him. I know he's got more opportunities coming his way, and love that guy. Proud of him. Number one supporter in here for him no matter what.
The move even got former Cowboy great Tony Dorsett's attention. He tweeted, "Thanks, Ezekiel Elliott, for all the excitement you brought to the Dallas Cowboy fans. Good luck and Godspeed." San Antonio's Brahmas are back home after 3 straight road games. They host the Arlington Renegades this weekend. The Brahmas are 1-3, coming off back-to-back losses, 22-13 at Houston and 15-6 last weekend in Seattle. San Antonio is struggling, so maybe playing in the Dome will get them going.
I'm super excited to get back down to San Antonio and, get another opportunity to play in front of our home crowd. And we fell short the first time playing in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome, and so I know that our players are eager to get back down there and see if we can get our first win at the Alamo Dome.
San Antonio is going to host Arlington Sunday night, 8 o'clock in the Dome on Military Appreciation Evening. And the XFL reinstated Orlando Guardians quarterback Quentin Dormandy after his name was cleared. He was accused of sharing his team's plays with the opposition. The XFL hired an outside law firm to investigate, and they found no evidence to back up that claim.
Snoring is common, but it could be more than just an annoying habit. How to know when snoring is actually a sign of something more serious.
And new today at 5, with all the uncertainty about the banking system following the fallout of Silicon Valley Bank, many consumers are concerned about their funds. Today at 5, hear from a banking expert on how to make sure you're banking in a safe way.
Silicon Valley Bank's former parent company has filed for bankruptcy protection. Meanwhile, banks are making unprecedented moves to shore up U.S. banking systems. Here's ABC's Rebecca Jarvis with how major banks are now trying to keep another bank from collapsing.
Some of the largest banks in the country racing to save First Republic as it teeters on the verge of collapse. Major financial institutions, including J.P. Morgan, Citigroup, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, banding together to pump $30 billion into First Republic to help save it. The extraordinary joint action trying to defend the entire U.S. banking system against panic by refusing to let First Republic fail. The deepening crisis leaving some customers rattled.
What are you doing with the people that are investing with you? Because you make it sound like you have everything covered, but at the same time, it feels like they're just playing with our cash.
The news coming after reports from the Wall Street Journal that top executives at First Republic sold $12 million in stock in the months leading up to the crash. First Republic telling us they have no comment. It's been just a week since the sudden failure of Silicon Valley Bank. The Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission are now conducting independent investigations into the collapse. Sources tell ABC News the FBI's early focus is on Silicon Valley Bank's leadership and whether there's any evidence of possible insider trading. On Broadway, many productions reportedly scrambling after the closure of Signature Bank, a medium-sized New York-based bank used by as many as half of all Broadway shows. But on Thursday, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen reassuring a Senate panel.
I do believe the banking system in the United States is sound and resilient.
That was ABC's Rebecca Jarvis reporting.
The FCC says it's seen a surge of consumer complaints in recent years tied to unwanted robo-texts. And now it's hoping new rules will help cut down on the spam messages. The new rules require phone providers to block text messages from suspicious sources, including phone numbers that appear to be invalid, unallocated, or unused. Carriers will also have to block texts coming from numbers that claim not to ever send text messages or that government has identified as numbers not used for texting. The FCC also considering additional regulations that could, among other things, apply do not call registry protections to text messages for the first time. The FAA is proposing to greatly increase the recording capacity of cockpit voice recorders in the wake of recent near collisions. The agency held an emergency aviation safety summit this week where it proposed lengthening cockpit voice recorder time to 25 hours. Right now, the recorders only capture the most recent 2 hours of sound in the cockpit. The National Transportation Safety Board is investigating recent runway incursion incidents at airports around the country, but it says because of the 2-hour limit, cockpit audio recordings are not available in all of them.
Now, if you're heading downtown for St. Patrick's Day festivities, don't forget that jacket.
Yeah, exactly. Don't forget the jacket because it is much colder right now compared to where we were this time yesterday. In fact, by about 10 to 20 degrees, in some spots about 25 degrees. So yes, St. Patrick's Day has somewhat of a winter-like feel in place this Friday. And really that's going to be the theme into this weekend as well as some additional chances for some rain out there. Right now we are in the low 50s here in Bexar County this lunchtime hour, 50 over at Randolph, 51 at Kelly, 52 on the south side, over at Stinson, and 50 officially over at SA International. Now, as we head into this afternoon, overall daytime highs topping off well below average for this time of year. Our average high is 74 degrees for context, more in the mid, maybe upper 50s, depending on the cloud cover out there over the next several hours. Now, unseasonably cold conditions Saturday and Sunday, even into Monday. We're talking highs in the upper 40s and low 50s out there. That is thanks to additional cloud cover and, yes, the potential for some additional scattered rain, especially overnight tonight and into the first half of the day tomorrow, where we could find a few flakes try and mix in with some of that rain across portions of the hill country, and just a few more isolated to scattered chances for rain into Sunday and Monday of next week. Now, in terms of our temperatures, yes, it will be cold in the mornings. In fact, this weekend lows are in the upper 30s and low 40s. But how about this for your temperature trend? Still below average into Monday of next week and even into Tuesday, but we're a little bit warmer, jumping up into the low 60s. Spring-like conditions return, though, as well as the humidity Wednesday and into Thursday, ahead of potentially another front that moves in by late next week. So we'll get you all the details. We'll detail that weekend forecast, what you need to keep with you as well, coming up here in just a few, guys.
Thank you, Mia. Now, there's a growing shortage of pediatric hospital beds. According to the American Hospital Association, only 37% of hospitals in the U.S. now offer pediatric services. That's down 42% from a decade ago. Not only that, experts say there is a shortage of doctors and technicians to treat ailing children. Then there's the money issue. Medicaid reimburses doctors at a lower rate for children. Sometimes hospitals have to put adults in pediatric beds for financial reasons.
Millions of people snore in their sleep, but could that snoring be a sign of something more serious? Alyssa Cole takes a look at the signs that your snoring could be pointing to health risks.
It can be annoying and disruptive to sleep.
Snoring by itself really is not much of a problem.
But the doctor says it can be a sign of obstructive sleep apnea, when muscles that support soft tissues in your throat relax, closing your airways so that breathing is temporarily cut off. People with this condition may make gasping or snorting noises while sleeping.
Sleep apnea does not result in people choking to death or dying in their sleep, but what happens is the airways closing off, and that can trigger them to wake up, even if they're not aware of it. Essentially, you're choking throughout the night, and it's almost as if your body is fighting against itself.
The doctor says that can raise blood pressure and heart rate. Over time, that takes a toll on your body and can lead to heart attacks or stroke.
If you snore and you're tired, or if you snore and you have other conditions associated with sleep apnea, for example, like diabetes or hypertension, you may want to get it tested, because the snoring in that case could be representative of sleep apnea.
So the snoring's waking you up?
If sleep apnea is diagnosed, a CPAP machine can be worn at night.
It's going to blow pressurized air in here, which then goes all the way down to the back of the throat, and it's going to force the airway open. The snoring will be eliminated, but more importantly, the sleep apnea will also be eliminated.
Alyssa Cole, KSAT12 News.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say treatment of other medical problems like congestive heart failure may also help resolve sleep apnea.
Ted Lasso fans, how would you like to spend the night at AFC Richmond's favorite pub? The Crown and Anchor could be open for your next trip across the pond, but you'll have to travel on some specific dates. And a person visiting a state park walked away with a special souvenir, and it's worth several $1,000s.